What's going on down there? Let's check it out.
The shooters, suppress that incoming!
Whoa! I told you this was going to be a Battlefield type game. This is Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, a console exclusive spin-off of Battlefield 2, released in 2005 for the Xbox and PS2, and later in 2006 for the Xbox 360. So, why am I reviewing this game and not just Battlefield 2? Hot swapping, that's why. Well, that and the fact that this was the first Battlefield game to actually feature a single player campaign, something the series would continue to experiment with for better or for worse. This game came out 3 years before Bad Company was released. But before we touch the campaign, let's go back to hot swapping. At any time in a level, if you're close enough to an allied unit, you can press a button and you'll reject your current body and fly into theirs, gaining their weapons and equipment. You were there, but now you're over here. This opens up a number of opportunities. There can be snipers posted up in high towers, or engineers ready with rocket launchers to take down vehicles. Maybe you just want a better angle on the people shooting at you. This system lets you do all that and more. Some of the maps in this game can be quite big too, so sometimes instead of walking all the way up to an objective, you can just hot swap to somebody who's close by, saving you time. The same goes for if you die. Once you've shuffled off your mortal coil, instead of getting a game over, your consciousness is just shoved into the nearest unsuspecting ally. I like to imagine this is what it's like to be an agent in the Matrix. No need to waste time chasing Neo down or worrying about dying. Just snatch the body of the most conveniently placed schlub. It's a good thing you can swap bodies when you die too, because you do not get a lot of health in this game. There's also no regenerating health, or health packs. You can only heal using one particular class of character that only turns up in about 2 of the game's 15 or so levels, so get used to dying. This brings me onto the game's weirdest, most out-of-place feature. Yeah, it's not the body-swapping existential nightmare, it's the killstreak system. Yeah, this single-player game has a weird killstreak system. Sorta? As you kill enemies in quick succession, you gain what I guess you could call experience points. Enough kills in a short period of time and you get a health boost, then a damage boost, then a boost to your movement speed and jump height, then your reload speed and rate of fire, and finally a straight damage reduction. Okay, this is pretty cool. What makes it weird is that it's constantly ticking down. Every second you spend not killing an enemy, you're losing points, so your health buff won't last, or your damage upgrade. In order to keep these buffs, you have to play like you're John Rambo, racking up crazy amounts of kills very quickly. The downside to this is the aforementioned small health pool. You can't regain HP, and even the health buff doesn't really help much. So you're encouraged to play recklessly and rewarded for it. At least until you inevitably get killed and lose all those bonuses. It feels so weird. Your men are just disposable bodies for you to take. You're expected to die multiple times, but I'm sorta predisposed to trying to minimize my deaths. So this system can be fun, but often just leads to you dying more, which kinda defeats the point of getting all these buffs in the first place. Okay, enough about weird game systems for now. How does it actually feel to play? Well, it feels like a console game from 2005, if it was made by a dev who has never made a console shooter. This game lacks some of the quality of life features you'd expect from a console shooter. Most importantly, aim assist. There isn't a shred of aim assist to be found anywhere, meaning that lining up shots, especially with a sniper rifle, can be really difficult, and makes the entire experience feel needlessly clunky. When compared to other shooters on consoles at the time, such as Halo, Battlefront and Call of Duty, this game just feels awkward. Speaking of awkward, the controls in this game are just plain weird. So, it starts simple. Right trigger shoots, B reloads, A to get into vehicles, X to hot swap. Sure, okay, I'm with you so far. To change weapons, you hold down the right bumper and flick the right stick in the desired direction. Yeah, that's a little weird. It's awkward at first, but you get used to it. Well, how about crouching? Oh, That's easy, just press left trigger. And to stand up or jump, it's the left bumper. So now this game is using Mirror's Edge controls 3 years before that game even existed. And here, they don't feel good at all. You'd think these are maybe just poorly ported controls from the original Xbox, since that controller had 6 face buttons and no bumpers, but no, it's completely different. It just feels unnecessarily complicated. So how do the guns feel? Well, they're functional, as in you can functionally fire bullets out of your barrel towards the enemy. Yeah, there's nothing special here. Recoil is entirely just a cone that increases in size. Your gun doesn't kick at all. There is enough recoil where bursting your shots can help, but not enough that it stopped me from spraying in full auto a bunch anyway. The gunplay is honestly just really anemic. Again, compared to other games of its era, it feels subpar. Okay, so the guns don't feel amazing, but how do they sound?
Keep it up!
They sound fine. Better than plenty of other games. The weapons have a decent amount of bass to them, so they don't sound like airsoft guns. There's the detail of being able to hear shell casings as they eject from your gun and hit a surface, but once again, we've got bad suppressed weapons. Here, they're literally using the stock suppressed gunshot sound from like every movie and 90s video game. I don't expect games from this time to get suppressed weapons right, but come on, man. Well, how about the music? Well, the main theme is pretty catchy. And it breaks the tradition of using remixes of the same theme for every Battlefield game, so that's not bad. But the rest of the music is more or less the same pompous orchestral music you get in modern military shooters.
Shot, he's down! Target's visual throughout.
If you took out the game's main theme and then played music from this intermixed with music from something like Modern Warfare 2, I honestly wouldn't be able to tell them apart. So the music isn't necessarily bad, just pretty run-of-the-mill and generic. The only other part is the voice acting, all of which seems fine.
Welcome to Kazakhstan, gents. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Bob Scott, NATO Task Force Commander in this area of Central Asia.
I'm not qualified to say whether or not the accents in this game are authentic or not, but the voice acting at the very least sounds clean and professional. The voice direction is good, and the actors clearly knew what they were doing. The big downside to the voices is during gameplay. There is always somebody talking to you. You can't go 5 seconds without someone telling you to charge the enemy, or saying they're pinned down, or telling you to go plant charges. I swear, if I heard the name Ramirez, I would have broken down screaming, crying, and laughing all at the same time. I'm sorry, I just have Keith David-induced PTSD. Alright, so the campaign has a lot of dudes shouting at you, but how is it? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag really. Let's start with the positive. It's decently varied. There's your standard foot soldier, kill dudes and do objective type missions. There's missions where you drive a bunch, there's a mission where you have to do recon on a variety of locations and you get to switch between your recon helicopter and helicopters with missiles for clearing out the recon locations first. There's a sniper mission, a tank mission, a mission where you take down tanks and helicopters at one stage, clear out snipers in another, and assault a fortified compound in another section, all in one mission. And none of the missions outstay their welcome either. Some are quite short at 6 or 7 minutes, and the longest mission was only about 15 minutes in length. I would normally be upset with levels this short, but some of them would definitely get tedious if they were longer. The downside to this is that the campaign only took me about 2.5 hours to complete. Or at least it would have if it weren't for that mission. Not yet. Soon. The game has a scoring system with online leaderboards, so there's some replayability here if you like to get competitive with scoring. But yeah, there's no getting around it. It's a pretty short game all on its own, and I imagine the campaign was probably just put there to help sell the multiplayer. See, back when this game first released, not everybody played multiplayer games online on their consoles. The PS2 required a network adapter on the older models, and the Xbox required an online subscription, something that wasn't exactly standard back then like it is today on consoles. So if you were to sell the game for consoles, you needed a single player campaign. I imagine DICE still wanted to market this as a multiplayer experience so it could compete with stuff like Halo, which had very healthy online communities, but I don't know. I didn't have Xbox Live back then, and I'm not buying it now to test the multiplayer in a dead game. So, the campaign is decent except for 2 levels. 2 god-forsaken levels. The first is a level cutely named Beach Party. It's the 11th level in the game, and it is just a rough simulation of D-Day. You storm a beach and have to fight uphill against fortified bunkers with machine guns. It's not difficult, just tedious. On most levels, I die maybe 6 or 7 times. At the end of this level, I had 59 casualties. 59! The level actually rewards you for not losing 35 men. This level knew what it was doing. It's just an uphill battle where you die again, and again, and again. Again! I beat it on my first try. I just kept throwing bodies up against a brick wall until it eventually started cracking and I won. But my god, it was a frustrating, dull experience. But it gets worse. The last level is complete and utter nonsense. Without getting into the story, you're fighting against new elite enemies on this level, and they are completely unfair. They always know where you are, they are impossibly accurate, and they can sometimes shoot you through geometry. They're also infinitely respawning. It's okay though, so are your guys, which would be helpful, except when you weren't looking, your men went and had their brains surgically replaced with a half-eaten strawberry. They're useless, and just act as spare bodies. They will not help you with your objectives, and I'd be surprised if they even got a kill. Worse still is the fact that you don't get any medics on this level. So even when you're desperately trying to push through and gain ground against the enemy, you're on your own, unable to heal, and when you die, your allies are too busy being spawn camped, so you just get sent back to the start. When you enter this level, you parachute in, and about 25% of the time, you'll die before you even hit the ground. So what's the objective on this unforgiving hellhole of a level? Plant 2 bombs in 2 locations. Oh, but you've only got 10 minutes to do it? I'd say it's impossible, but I did it. Only to then get thrown a new objective to plant another bomb in a new location on the other side of the map. It's okay, you get reinforcements and tanks, which would be great if the tank's armor was made of anything other than paper mache and broken dreams. It's impossible. I threw myself at this level for about 2 hours before I just gave up. I'm sorry, continuing my torture with this level was tempting, but there was a rusty knife I could jam under my fingernails instead, and it was just too good to miss. So, all in all, the campaign isn't bad, but when you get to the final mission, just put your controller down and go outside or something. Don't do that to yourself. You deserve better. So, we've got a campaign, but what's the story to go with it? Well, really there isn't much, to be honest. What little story there is mostly serves to just give some loose context to the missions you're carrying out. But to sum it up, the story centers around Kazakhstan. The nation is supplying oil and natural gas to the west, and NATO are essentially occupying the nation. China doesn't like this and says that NATO is destabilizing the area and putting the people of Kazakhstan at risk, so they push in to remove NATO. And that's about it. Well, until the end. I'd warn you of spoilers, but there really isn't much here to spoil. Right as one of the sides successfully pushes out the other, depending on who you choose to play as near the end, a new faction called the Burning Flag comes out of the woodwork led by someone named Commander 31. The commander reveals that it was them who pitted China and NATO against each other so that the world's biggest military forces would weaken each other, paving the way for the Burning Flag to take over the world. And they begin this by breaking into ICBM sites and threatening the world with nuclear winter. It's right out of the Call of Duty playbook, though admittedly this is some years before Modern Warfare. In the end, I think you kill Commander 31 and save the day? I don't know. I never beat that final level, so for me, the canon ending is that he launched the nukes and hit Europe and America. Ah well. There is an interesting element to the story, however. Every few missions in the campaign, you switch over to playing the other faction, and you get a video showing what you just did in the previous missions filtered through the lens of the opposing propaganda, so everything you do in this game, you then get told that it was a crime against humanity and that you've hurt the people of Kazakhstan.
Enemy forces have advanced into Kazakhstan to threaten the China border. Heavy fighting around Balkhash brought another conflict near the Chinese border. Peace talks were undermined by an unprovoked NATO attack.
3 submarines were on a strictly defensive mission when they were sunk in an unprovoked Chinese attack. Enemy forces took control of a vital oil platform, leaving locals wondering about the threat of sabotage to the offshore facility. Chinese forces attacked an unarmed civilian vessel, and heavy casualties are feared in this devastating assault.
The game never really tells you if what you're doing is good or bad, leaving you to make up your own mind. The propagandists on both sides lie, so you know not to trust them, but can you really trust the people leading these factions too? They can't both be doing what's right for Kazakhstan. This is something I really didn't expect to see in a throwaway campaign in an obscure Battlefield game only released on consoles, and yet it's making me think the same way Spec Ops The Line did. Then it kinda just ruins it all by throwing Commander 31 in there, so now neither side were really the bad guys. Ah well. So, yeah, there's almost no story, but what little there is handled in an interesting manner. Alright, so you've played the short campaign and you don't want to play online multiplayer. What else is there to do? Well, I'm glad you asked, arbitrary question asker. This game has a challenge mode, kinda similar to the arcade in Time Splitters. Challenges come in 3 flavors: Hot Swap, Weapons, and Racing. We'll start with Hot Swap. In this mode, the Hot Swap ability has been changed, so now you need line of sight to swap bodies with someone. The map has a bunch of allies scattered across the map and someone is selected from among them. You then have to swap from person to person in the shortest time using the quickest route until you can swap to the target person. This mode isn't great. It can get pretty frustrating because you don't actually know what angles the person you're swapping to can see. You could swap to somebody thinking they'll be able to see your target, only to find out there's a wall in the way you couldn't have known about, and you need to keep swapping. Sometimes they'll throw enemies at you when you swap to your target, but all these really do is check to make sure you're still awake. They don't add any real challenge and just serve to slow you down. It's not terrible, but it gets old fast. It just screams of the devs trying to show off their new fun gimmick. Weapons challenges are pretty straightforward. You get thrown waves of targets and you have to kill them as quickly as possible with as few shots as possible. You can't move, and the enemy don't fire back, so it's just a shooting gallery. These are honestly pretty dull for the most part. There's also one where you're in a helicopter and have to snipe targets on the ground, except sometimes the missile launcher on the helicopter blocks one of your targets and you can't actually kill them. My favourite of these was the rocket launcher one, because you got 4 guys to swap between, so every time you took a shot, instead of waiting to reload, you could just switch to a new guy at a new angle, which at least made the mission kind of interesting. But, largely speaking, this mode is dull. Lastly is races. These are all time trials done using the various vehicles in the game. These are the best challenges. Racing boats, APCs, and helicopters is actually kind of fun and engaging. They're fairly basic, but these are easily the best challenges in the game. I think what makes the other challenge modes even worse is that they can actually be about as long as campaign missions, and 10 minutes of just shooting target dummies isn't really all that fun. As with the campaign, these are scored, so you can compete in online leaderboards if that's your thing. Well, after all of this, I can say that the game is certainly interesting. This game was the first Battlefield game to actually include a single player campaign. They didn't do an amazing job at it, but I think it's an important game to look at. See what lessons they learned in future titles, and maybe other lessons that they didn't. Do I recommend you pick up this game? Probably not. Sure, you can pick it up cheap. This game only cost me 50p, and yeah, you can play it on your Xbox One if you like, but to be honest, this game has aged like milk. And while the hot swapping feature is interesting, it's not enough to really save this game, and possibly wasn't used to its fullest potential. And if you want multiplayer, just go play Battlefield 2 or 2142. Some games just don't need to be played anymore.
Better find a satellite phone and call your family. It's likely the last time you'll ever hear their voices.
Join me next time when we take our exploits to the stars. See you, Space Cowboy. I just want to say a quick thank you to everybody who watched the last video. The response has been overwhelming and it has made my day, my week, my month. Seriously, it was so positive. Thank you so much, and I really hope you enjoyed this video as well.